tales, we've heard stories of how Alfa Romeo was once the most incredible performance brand. But if Alfa Romeo really wants to succeed, if they really want to crack the market and prove that they can be what they once were, it's this, the Alfa Romeo Giulia in its base 2-litre turbo specification. This is the one that's going to have to do the grunt work. This is the one that's going to have to prove that it is good enough to outdo the BMW 320i.
Setting out to engineer the Giulia, Alfa Romeo's engineers needed to ensure the quality was on par for the segment. As such, they approached the likes of Magneti Marelli, Faurecia and Genevieve Alliance, all of whom supply Alfa's rivals in the segment with their interior materials and componentry.
All the main touch points in here are soft touch. There are a couple of places where you will find hard scratchy plastic, but for the most part those are out of reach. All the dials, all the buttons, they feel great, but when you fiddle around with them and you just wiggle them, you can actually feel that they are a little bit loose. So even though the material quality is great, it doesn't quite feel as solidly buttoned down as it should be, solidly put together. I suppose it's, it's typical Alfa Romeo. This is a vast improvement on anything they've had before, which did feel like an expensive Fiat. This doesn't feel like that at all. This is completely bespoke Alfa Romeo, but there are a couple of places where it just could be a little bit better, a little bit sharper, where it doesn't quite match up to the Germans in terms of its standards.
The Giulia derives its power from a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder, outputs of 147 kilowatts and 330 newton meters. The rear wheels are driven by a carbon fiber drive shaft, just like the range-topping Quadrifoglio. The motor is potent but feels asthmatic at top end and feels like it could do with another 1000 RPM worth of punch before dropping off. The gearbox is an 8-speed automatic unit sourced from ZF, and just like its other applications, it's exceptional. Shifts are prompt and snappy in auto mode, and in manual mode the box will hang onto a gear until you ask otherwise. In manual mode you also get to use the utterly glorious aluminium shift pedals, column mounted just like a Ferrari.
Even though they do look and feel incredible, they aren't exactly the most practical through a long drawn out protracted bend. When you're applying a bit of lock, you're unfortunately not able to grab the next gear without moving your hand around. And when you're concentrating and really going at it, you don't want to be fumbling for the gear shift pedal. You want it to be right there where your hand is, where your fingers are, and unfortunately this just isn't.
Alfa Romeo's intent with the Giulia was to create the best driver's car in the segment. A 50-50 weight distribution and rear-wheel drive are only part of the recipe though. Dynamically, it has to be something special. Alfa has hyped up the Giulia's dynamics, and as petrol heads we'd like to believe the propaganda. But can the Giulia really live up to the hype surrounding it?
The chassis tune on this Giulia is simply magical. Like a fighter jet or even a superbike, it feels purposefully unstable. It's not that it's dangerous or it feels too twitchy or like it's going to throw you into the bushes. Far beyond that, actually, it's just so ready to go, so light, so agile. The default chassis setting on this is oversteer. It just constantly twitches and it's ready to go. And then the ESC goes and reins it in. I really wish that there was, in dynamic mode, just a slightly looser stability control setting that would allow you to have a little bit more fun, because the chassis wants to play with you. The rear wheels are constantly trying to just let go a little bit. The rest of it is so alive. The steering is so quick. It doesn't quite have the same feel that you get in the Jaguar XE, but you get feedback. You know what the front wheels are doing, and the thing is, you never have to worry about the front wheels because there is no understeer to be found in this. The brakes are super sharp, perhaps almost a bit too sharp. When braking, you adjust the brakes by micron, not by millimeter. But they suit it. Everything about this car just begs to be pushed. It begs to be enjoyed. It's not just the QV model that is this great, it's this base spec model as well. They've got it right from start to finish, Alfa have. Over the past few years, BMW has gone cold a little bit, especially on the 3 Series. It's no longer quite the driver's car that it used to be. Alfa Romeo were targeting that. They wanted to make sure that this was the best possible driver's car you could get. And it is. I think in segment this is dynamically more talented than the Jaguar XE. It's got all the interior quality that you expect from a car in segment. Perhaps not 100% as good as a BMW, but as close as. You wouldn't notice it. It's negligible in terms of the quality. It's a fantastic car. It's comfortable. luxurious to be in, but when you really get going, it responds as a storied Alfa should, as we've always been told that Alfas are supposed to do. They haven't lived up to the hype before. But the Giulia, this is... Oh, I love this car. I never ever thought I would see the day when there's an Alfa Romeo that is a good car and an absolutely incredible driver's car. This is Alfa's renaissance, their rebirth. They set out to create one car that needed to be brilliant. It had to be if the brand was ever going to survive and ever going to be what it once was. And they've done it. Alfa Romeo have created a credible 3 Series rival. They have created a phenomenal 3 Series rival and a magical sports sedan. Alfa Romeo did a thing.